in this session, we're going to cover TTFL. What the TTFL stands for? TTFL is for a refinement so that our SL will be small and the TP will be big. That's the purpose for the TTFL. And in TTFL, what we need or the key levels we look at for are supports for buys, resistance for sells, and equilibrium. This is the only three things we look out for when we are on the TTFL. That's the third time frame level or third time frame line. I'm going to use the previous examples we used. Now, this is a weekly key level on gold. Then we marked this was our FTFL, weekly. Then we marked this box. If you're confused on this box, watch the previous video. We marked our box. This is the FTFL box. Then we move down to daily. Moving down to daily, we had our supports. Inside our supports, what do we do also? We also mark out our box. We mark the box from the beginning to the end, same way we did before, extend one step to the right to cover the open and the beginning and the ending of the candle. I can give it any color at all, leave it this color. Then inside here, what am I looking for inside here when I go down to TTFL? Now, since the FTFL was on weekly, my TTFL is on daily. That is the STFL is on daily, 1 day. When I move down to 4 hour, inside here, my TTFL, what am I looking for? I'm looking for, since I'm buying, I'll be looking for supports or equilibrium. That's the only thing I'm looking at for. Then we go down to our 4 hour. Then when we get to our 4 hour, now we have the supports. We have our support. So TTFL, we have a support here. So that's the only thing we look out for when we go to TTFL. But if we are selling, we look for resistance or equilibrium. Now I'm going to show you how to get equilibrium later. But for now, we saw support here. We are going to mark the support. So if the market comes back down, this is going to be where we'll be using to enter the trade for buys. And we buy here immediately for the market to start leaving. Let's go back again to the other examples we used in the previous class. In the previous class, we marked this area as our FTFL for daily. This was FTFL here on daily. This was it here on daily. So since this was it on daily, if I go to my STFL, after marking FTFL on daily, we marked the box. If you've forgotten how we mark that box, watch the previous video. After marking this box on FTFL, we go down to the STFL, second time frame line of second time frame level. Then getting here, we had an on fresh resistance, on fresh support. So I'm still going to mark here as, since I said we picture it, if the STFL, the support or resistance there is an apex. Now I write the STFL then 4R. Now, after marking that, I'm going to mark out the same thing we marked before, extend it one step to the right, then bring it down. Then move down to 1 hour. 1 hour is where I want to look for my TTFL. Inside the 1 hour, what I'm looking for is support since I'm buying, or QM. If I see this place, we have a QM here. Okay, it's inside. Now, I'm not looking inside this big box again. I'm looking inside this other smaller box here. So if I look at here, I have this area. This is a QM. This is a QM here. This is a QM inside the box. And this I'm very close to the box. We have a support. So this area is where I'm going to pick my trade here. This is where I'm going to take my trade on 1 hour. This QM, remember, this is a QM. If I go to line chart, you see that this left, came back. So this is a QM here. This is a support. So on the TTFL, what we look for is support or QM for buys. You get support or QM for buys. Let's go and look for another area that is fresh, that the STFL is fresh. I like using areas that the STFL is fresh. I don't always trust areas where STFL is not fresh. So if I look at this one, this was one of the example we used, the FTFL on daily. Then I move down to 4 hour. I move down to 4 hour to look for my STFL. Moving down to 4 hour. This is it. On this other time frame, this is STFL. This first one was FTFL. This first one is FTFL. This second one is STFL. We have a resistance here. I'm going to mark here, take it up to this part, extend one step to the right. Then inside here on 1 hour, I'm looking for a resistance QM or equilibrium. Now, if I come down to 1 hour, what are we seeing? You see that on 1 hour, which is the TTFL, there is no key level here. That's when the equilibrium comes in. When we move down to the third time frame level or the third time frame line, and there is no key level, there's no resistance, there's no for sell, that's for selling. For selling, there's no resistance, there's no QM. What we do, we take the equilibrium of the box we drew on the second time frame level. That's the STFL. We take the equilibrium of that box. Remember, equilibrium means half. This is equilibrium. Take the equilibrium of that box, which is going to be this line. You see the box? Now, if your box doesn't have a line, what you do, you go to that box, go to settings, go to style, then add a middle line to it so that it will always give you that. Now, if your box doesn't have line, let's say your box is like this with no line, you can use your Fibonacci tool, mark from the beginning of the body of that resistance to the wick. You also get your equilibrium there. You see that? You see that? So that is your equilibrium at that point. So we mark that place and use that as equilibrium. So if the market is coming back up, I'm expecting to enter my trade here. So where your TTFL has no support resistance or QM, we switch to equilibrium and use equilibrium to draw and to pick our entry. Using this trade on USDJPY, if I want to pick this trade coming from weekly, remember this box was on weekly because this is a weekly support. After rejection, there was a breakout. So this is one of the A plus setup. A plus setup doesn't mean it's going to work always. So weekly reject, weekly daily breakout, and the market weekly dropped a support there. So we marked it, marked the box, went into our STFL, which was daily, and inside daily we had two zones, which was this one, which was that zone, a QM, and also this zone, which is a support. The same thing we've been doing on FTFL box. We're going to create a box for STFL, marking here to this point, extend one step right, bring it down to the lowest wick. The lowest wick. The same thing with this one. In case the market wants to come to support, mark here to this place, extend one step right, bring it down to the lowest wick. Now, this is my STFL, perfectly drawn, very fresh. Your STFL is more stronger when it's fresh. Note, your STFL must be fresh. Sometimes if the STFL is an apex resistance or support and is on fresh, it works. But it's more powerful when the STFL is fresh, very fresh. And these two are very fresh. So if I mark here, go down to because I'm coming from weekly and I'm not waiting for confirmation, Getting here, you see that there is no key level inside here, no support, no resistance, but we have equilibrium. So I'm going to use that equilibrium there. Keep it at that place. Let's change this to black. That's the one I'm going to use. Equilibrium. We have equilibrium here. I'll use that. Then, since it's USD JPY, if I'm picking a trade from there, I'm going to put my entry here. Then my stop loss is going to be 55 pips, which is going to be 5.5 pips, which is 55 on this tick and forex.com. I do that. Then extend it. This is how I get all those 1 is to 30, 1 is to 40. This is going to be my next run liquidity because weekly is bullish. The only thing that will make here not to be respected is if the market wants to change storyline. So most times when I put my entry, I just leave it. Like this trade, I placed the entry already, so I just left it. It goes in my favor, I'm happy. It doesn't go in my favor, I know it happens sometimes. So that is it. Then if I want to pick a trade from this support, inside you see the SCFL box. This is the SCFL box. We have how many zones? We have 2 valid zones, which is this QM. And I also have a valid zone here, which is Apex support, which is on fresh. So this is where I'm going to expect the market to come to, because here already is a support, and out of a support here was a QM. So if a QM is disrespected, most time QM are always disrespected, but if a QM is disrespected, then I believe it's going to use the other parts that was extreme support and apex support. Okay, let me also teach you something which I've not said before. Remember I said X reject X and Y breakout is the storyline. On a storyline, we can also have X rejects X and X also breaks out. X breakout. We can also have this. This is a complete storyline also. What do I mean by X reject X? X breakout means the time frame that did the rejection also is the time frame that did the breakout. Like here's the card, last week trade. I think it was last week trade. Yes, we had the same thing, which was this one. If I want to mark here, let's put a line. You see that we had daily reject dailies here. There was a daily reject daily. You see that daily reject daily, and there was a breakout. You see, so I'm not just saying this thing. These are trade I took. So that's why I'm able to remember them. Just go to the chart. So this was daily reject daily, and this was a breakout here. This was a breakout here. So after the breakout, they're valid for a trade. Now, if I want to check at this market now, the right place for me to wait for entry was where? Was here, which was supposed to be my resistance. But looking on this current day, this was the previous candle. Where did this candle break any key level that we talked about? It did not break any key level that later turned to QM, but it broke one of the type of OCL that we said that is very important, which was what? It was an OCL, support OCL. It broke it there. Now, at this point, here was still my A plus setup, expecting the market to come here. What I did, I drew my box. Remember, always draw your box. Now, I drew my box, got a very perfect resistance. If the market came to this zone, there's no way the market is not going to respect here. That was my second second time frame level. Then inside my second time frame level, also had another week there, extend 1 step. Then inside that place also, I was really anticipating this trade if the market came in. I wanted to put in very big money inside here. Now, this was it. Everything was fresh. No, daily reject daily broke out. Then daily created this resistance for us. And that resistance, SCFL had a perfect resistance also. Then TTFL was what was equilibrium. You see that? So it was very good. That was the trade I was telling people on my life that there's a trade I'm expecting. So if the market got to that place, 50, that is 5.5 pips, I also use the same amount on Okay, USD card doesn't give high profit like that, like USD JPY. So this was supposed to be 1 to 26, but the market did not get here. See what the market did. I marked that one and I kept it. Then I now say, remember my principle, which I say if the previous candle breaks any key level, one of the key level that we discussed, I'm going to work on that. So whenever I'm picking through it, I'm using OCL as my FTFL. When I mark the OCL, I always try to make sure I mark the beginning of that candle that formed the OCL to the top. Then I extend one step right. That's it. Then inside here, the only thing I'm looking for inside there for sell, I'm looking for resistance. For buys, I'm looking for support. I'm not coming to this box to start looking for RBS, SBR. No, that's not what I'm looking out for. So if I came into the box, I shared this trade here. I posted it on my page. I came into this place and I saw this fresh resistance, very fresh resistance. You see that fresh resistance? I marked it. Let's look for one more example. Here we had this was FTFL, and this was this thing. Extend one step to the right. This was our what? This was our box, FTFL box. You went to the 4R here, and the market never came to this place. Now, this was what I was waiting for. And in this zone, I marked this area. This was what I was waiting for the trade to come. Remember, daily reject daily, there's a breakout, and the market kept a very valid support for us. And above that support, the market did not come back the next day. This was the previous day, current day candle as of then. And the previous day candle, immediate current candle close to this one, broke here and here. I used this to explain in that one of our class. Then I was waiting for here, this place, because of our valid entry. Now, looking at this point, when you mark your key level, I forgot to say, when you mark your key level, there are two places you'll be looking for entries. You see, you look for entries inside here. You see that? And also look for entries again inside here, where the candle broke out. You see that when you mark your line, let me remove this line. When you mark your line like this to this point, I can be looking for key level inside here or at this point here. Now, moving down to my SCFL, what did I get? There was no this thing here. There was no SCFL. Remember, our SCFL must be support, resistance, or QM. Support when we are buying, resistance when we are selling, then QM. Now, there was no key level here, but if I check below this line, the FTFL line, we're checking below the line. What did I get? I had this support, which was below the line. This was a valid point for entry as of then. It was a valid point of entry. You see? Then I will now mark here. Remember that thing I told you that when there is no key level inside your FTFL line, you can look below to see if there are other key level. There was no key level here, so I looked below the FTFL line and there was a key level here, which we had here. And moving down to the TTFL, there was a valid key level, which was, we had a support here also. We had a support here. We had a support here. We had a QM here also. You see the QM, so I will use this one because that's where I think the market is going to use. But you can still decide to split and put some here and put one here. Whenever we have QM, that's what we always do, because sometimes market disrespect QM and use support. Sometimes it will not even come to support, use QM. So to stay on the safe side, not to miss trade while you're on support, because this is the right place to use. This support is the right place to use. So for you not to miss out, you can put some percentage here, put some percentage here. So that's all for FTFL, STFL, TTFL.